The next year, 2012 was the year things started to go a bit south,
Okay.
because 1210 Quantal Quetzal or Quantal Quetzal, or have you pronounce it, was the first release that had the shopping lens built in.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I know about the shopping lens story, but if you want to briefly explain that one, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know
Okay.
about it.
Okay. So, uh, in 2012,
Mhm.
we had conversations internally to revamp the dash, which in Unity, when you press the super key, it's like a search thing, right? That's what it's for. It's just like every other operating system does now. You press one button and you get a panel, right?
Yes.
Unity was one of the first desktop operating systems to do that. And what the design was supposed to be was
Mhm.
to search everything, like all your
Mhm.
files, all your music, all your programs, search the App Store and search online.
Yes.
And so the dash had a concept of lenses,
Mhm.
and there was a main home lens, and if you just pressed the super key and started typing, it would search everything.
Which is how
And what that actually
Windows
did,
10 and Windows 11 work now.
yeah, exactly. And the same as on the Mac, if you do super space,
I haven't
it's the
used the Mac
same
since
thing.
Snow Leopard. I didn't know it did that
Okay.
now.
Well, they all do it. Like,
Yes. Okay.
it's spotlight search, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the separate lenses, if you press Super A, then
Uh-huh.
you only search applications. If you do
Right.
Super F, only search for files. Super M for music, and so on and so on. And
Right.
so
Makes
you
sense.
could install additional lenses, but all of the content was aggregated
Mhm.
into the main one, so that you could just press one button,
Mhm.
type stuff, and search. Right?
Yes.
That was the idea,
Mhm.
and the idea was for the the online search to be clever, smart in some way, in that it would give you contextual results,
Yes.
and something that was appropriate to you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, one of the things they thought we could do was search online stores for products. So, if
Mhm.
you press the super key and typed AA batteries, it would show up, all the search results for AA batteries with the price, and you just click and it takes you straight to the store, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was one for Wikipedia as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a Wikipedia one. There was a whole bunch. We actually had a couple of developers who made a whole bunch of these lenses
Okay.
to like search all kinds of. There was a music store and everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was the goal, right? And um, part of the problem was it searched Amazon. I mean, there's a succession of problems, right?
Okay.
It was on by default,
Mhm.
and it was in the dash. So when you pressed super, it searched all your local files, but it also sent those key presses, the search item things you're searching for, to a server at Canonical called
Mhm.
Product Search. And that then proxied those to a bunch of third parties.
Mhm.
One of those third parties was Amazon. And it
Right.
wasn't the only third party, but everyone calls it the Amazon lens or the Amazon, thing. But they weren't the only people that
Mhm.
the key presses were sent to. The reason why it was proxied through Canonical was so that you weren't identified,
Right.
right? So that it could anonymize you, but also so that they could put some smarts in the Canonical side, in the product search side,
Mhm.
and maybe feed you different results or aggregate results from different places. So it could search
Right.
20 different stores and then show you the results together, right? That was the goal.
Mhm.
But a few things. One, it was on by default, and some
Mhm.
people don't like online search by default being on, right? I get that. The second thing is it arrived very late in the cycle, like, so there's 6 months between one release and the next,
Okay.
and it was developed between two releases
Mhm.
and landed in October 2012,
Mhm.
but it was very late arriving,
Mhm.
meaning it should have been rejected and said, well, you're too late for this release. We're past feature freeze. We're past UI freeze. You can't land this. But there is a magic incantation that can be used to bypass the rules. And that is if Mark says so. And
Right.
so if
Okay.
Mark says, just do it, you do it,
Mhm.
because it's his football. He can take it away if he wants to.
Right.
And so you'll sometimes see in a bug report or when some feature is described,
Mhm.
it'll say this is a mark ask, or this has been Sabdeful. Sabdeful, self-appointed benevolent detective, like it's his nickname, right?
Mhm.
It's been marked or it's been Sabdeful, meaning just do it,
Mhm.
right? Because powers higher than you have decreed that this needs to go in.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it didn't have the same rigorous testing as it would have done if it had arrived on time, or if it had been postponed until the next release.
Mhm.
And then people would have found out that what actually happens is the key presses go to Canonical,
Mhm.
then they're aggregated and anonymized and sent to Amazon. But the problem is the results that appear in your dash,
Mhm.
the thumbnail images come from Amazon servers, right?
Mhm.
And so people were like, hang on a minute, this can tell who I am based on, my IP addresses, because the images weren't proxied through Canonical. The images came
Right.
straight from
Right.
Amazon. So that was another problem with it. It was
Mhm.
on by default, it arrived late, and the images weren't proxied, and they
Mhm.
came straight from Amazon. And it never really lived up to the promise.
Mhm.
It never really gained the intelligence to be contextual search. It was, and also it sometimes failed. It would show unsavory results sometimes
There was
because
the issue with
Amazon have unsavory things.
the issue with it showing not safe for work content
Yes.
sometimes.
Yes. And all of that, very funny. Look, it's showing me a dildo when I asked for AA batteries, or,
Right.
because AA batteries appear in the search results for that item, right? And none of that helped.
Mhm.
And so in December, so we're talking October is when that landed.
Mhm.
And by December that year,
Mhm.
RMS had made a video where he called it spyware.
Right.
And the EFF blogged about it
Mhm.
and called it Amazon data leaks. And so the end of 2012 was not pleasant,
Mhm.
because everyone was hating on Ubuntu because of this feature.
Mhm.
And so that that didn't go down well, and it was very difficult to recover from that,
Mhm.
because once you've got a leader in the, I nearly said open source community, when you've got a leader in the free software community like Richard Stallman calling your product spyware, and you've got a published blog on the EFF,
Mhm.
it's very difficult to come back from that. And we, in retrospect, the feature should either have been removed and improved for the next release, or it just shouldn't have landed when it did.
If it
Yada,
was off by
you could go
default,
back.
then I don't think anyone really could have complained. Like, you'd have some people try to, but it wouldn't have landed as strongly if you
Mhm,
enable something that searches Amazon and then Amazon collects your data, like, you did that to yourself.
mhm. The switch to turn it off arrived even later, so
Mhm.
you couldn't even like easily press a button to turn it off immediately.
From my
One of
understanding,
the developers,
the only way to
Didier, added that.
from my understanding initially, the only way was to either, you know, remove the lens entirely or just send Amazon traffic into the void.
Yeah, you could just sudo apt remove Unity lens, shop recommended, or shopping, or something. It was
Yeah,
called
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, you could just remove the package, and
Mhm.
it stops doing it like immediately.
Yeah.
But the damage was done.
Mhm.
So that was frustrating, especially for people like me who are the public face of Canonical.
Mhm. Mhm.
I remember vividly being in Copenhagen when the EFF published their blog, and I was at an Ubuntu Developer Summit, and someone sent me the link, and it appeared on Reddit or somewhere,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
was like, oh shit. And I showed it to the product manager who landed this thing
Mhm.
in Ubuntu, and he was like, yeah, whatever, and just quite dismissive of it. And I thought, okay,
Mhm.
great. So yeah, so that whole debacle. So interestingly, it was switched off rather quietly,
Mhm.
um, and what was left was an icon in the launcher on the left hand side, which was a web app. You just click that, and all it did was open Amazon with the affiliate link, the tag. You sometimes see people use Amazon affiliate links. It's just tag equals, something. And that's all that icon did. But the guilt by association of having that Amazon icon in there, even after we transitioned away from Unity and switched to GNOME 3, because we had that Amazon icon in there, people still thought that key presses are being sent to Amazon and, it's spyware, because they didn't realize that what that icon was just literally a web app that was just opened Amazon. Some of us lobbied internally to get that icon removed, and
that was there
we did eventually.
till 2004.
Yep.
Jeez.
I was the one who asked to have it removed in 2004.
Removed in 2004 and 1804 LTS. Jesus.
And as soon as I asked the director of desktop to do it, he was like, "Yep, totally." And he went to an engineer and said, "Could you do this?" And he's like, "I'm on it straight away." And they just did it straight away, because everyone knew how toxic that icon is. Like, even if you look at Dell marketing material that would show a Dell XPS 13, it would show the Ubuntu desktop and the Amazon icon is blurred out. Like, nobody wants that there. Like, but the fact is, it made money. And so for years, if you said to leadership, we need to get rid of all this Amazon integration, they would say, okay, how are you going to make money with the desktop then? What are you going to replace that with that makes money, that pays the engineers that work on Ubuntu desktop? And I know there's this prevailing feeling that Ubuntu doesn't make money off the desktop. That's wrong. It does. Desktop is profitable. And people thought that icon didn't make any money. It did. It did make money. But after a while, it was taken away. And but like I said, the damage was done. So it's very difficult to come back from that.
So would you say that situations like that happening for nearly 8 years is probably, part of why people have this like negative reaction to what snaps are doing, because it's all coming from Canonical. So even though it's not even remotely related, there's a lot of people that have this like, I guess negative impression.
Long memories?
They have this negative impression, long memories of Canonical, and because of that, then like I don't like snaps because I really hate the loopback devices. I know you can hide them, whatever. That's my personal reason. Snaps are fine for anything else, but like I have a distinct hatred for when I run LSBLK for the loopback devices to be there. But do you think that was definitely a part of it? The just Canonical being weird about not wanting to get rid of this?
I think the image of Canonical was certainly tarnished by the Amazon shopping lens stuff.